I never saw it coming. Honestly, if someone had told me that my wife, Lisa, would betray me like this, I'd have laughed in their face. But the truth is, it hit me like a freight train. We'd been together for nearly 10 years, married for 5, and I thought we had some kind of foundation. Turns out I was just fooling myself. It all started when I went on that business trip. I remember packing my bag early that morning, feeling a mix of excitement and distraction. I'd been so busy with work that I barely noticed Lisa's kisses or her whispered good luck. She looked tired but smiled like everything was fine. I don't know why I didn't see the warning signs then. Maybe because I was too wrapped up in my own head, or maybe because I trusted her too much. The trip was supposed to be quick, just a couple of days. But I started noticing strange things soon after. First, the late-night messages. I found them when I got back to the hotel and decided to check her phone out of boredom. The screen lit up with a string of texts from her supposed work colleague. I guess I should have felt suspicious then, but I shrugged it off. Maybe just some innocent work chatter, I told myself. But the messages weren't innocent. They were intimate, flirtatious even. Every night she'd send or receive something that made my stomach tighten. I remember reading one message that said, "Can't wait to see you again. Last night was unforgettable." My palms went cold and my heart started pounding. I wasn't stupid. I knew what this meant. I kept digging, but I didn't want to confront her outright. Not yet. I was stuck in this strange limbo, questioning everything about us. I stared at her phone one night, the glow illuminating my face as I scrolled through her messages. They weren't just flirty, they were heated, full of promises and secret plans. I could see her name, Mike, always there, always close to the surface. The worst part, I had this instinct, a gut feeling I ignored. The little things, her brushing off my questions, her quick replies, the way she'd suddenly get busy when I tried to talk about the trip. She'd say she was working late, that she was stuck in meetings. And I believed her. Why wouldn't I? I was so caught up in work myself. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. Maybe it was the way she'd avoid eye contact during dinner, or how she'd suddenly become distant after that night. I just didn't want to see it. Until I found the proof hiding on her phone right where I didn't want to look. That's when everything changed. I remember holding her phone in my hand, her messages splattered across the screen like a slap to the face. My stomach sank. My mind raced. I felt this rush of heat and cold at the same time, like my entire world was tilting on its axis. I confronted her that night. Her face went pale and she stammered. "It's not what you think," she kept saying, but I knew better. I saw the truth in her eyes, and I saw how she looked at him in those messages. That was it. That was the moment I realized I'd been living a lie. I decided I wouldn't let this go. Not without a fight. Not without making her feel the weight of what she'd done. That's when my plan started forming, dark and precise. She needed to understand that there are consequences, that trust once broken isn't easily mended. This wasn't just about her cheating, it was about reclaiming my dignity and showing her she couldn't get away with it. I didn't tell her I knew everything right away. Instead, I waited, watching her every move, planning. I remember how I felt, like I was walking on glass. Every step was cautious, deliberate. My stomach was tight and my fists clenched whenever I thought about what she'd done. The betrayal cut so deep I could taste it. She kept acting normal, but I noticed the small cracks, her nervous glances, the way she'd avoid my eyes when I asked about her day. I knew I had to act soon. I'd already crossed the line from hurt to furious. I needed her to feel that I wasn't going to be some idiot who got played. Now I'm sitting here, writing all this down, knowing that my next move will change everything forever. I've got her phone, the evidence I need, and a plan that's just waiting to unfold. But I still wonder, will she even understand what I'm about to do? Or will I have to spell it out in a way she can't ignore? Because if she thinks she can cheat behind my back and walk away, she's got another thing coming. I spent the next few days in a kind of fog, my mind racing every time I was alone. I couldn't stop thinking about the messages, about her lying to my face, about the trust I'd given her that she so casually shattered. It was like a knot tightening in my stomach, and no matter how I tried to pretend everything was fine, I knew I had to act. I started gathering everything I needed for the plan, the proof I'd uncovered, her phone, the screenshots I'd taken. I wanted her to realize I wasn't some naive idiot who'd get played. This had to hit her hard, a lesson she wouldn't forget. One evening I sat her down when she walked through the door. She looked exhausted but forced a smile. "Hey babe, how was your trip?" I looked at her carefully, my heart pounding in my chest. "It was fine," I said flatly. "I saw some things, Lisa. Things I wish I hadn't seen." Her face froze and her eyes darted. "Away, what do you mean?" I pulled out her phone and laid it on the table between us. "Don't pretend you don't know what I'm talking about. I found these messages, your conversations with Mike. The ones where you're talking about last night, about how much you enjoyed yourself, how you can't wait to see him again." Her face went pale. She looked like she'd been caught in a trap. "It's not what it looks like," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Oh, I think it is," I said coldly. "It's exactly what it looks like. You lied to me. You swore you were working late, but your phone says something else entirely." She looked like she was about to cry, but I didn't back down. I wanted her to understand this was real. This wasn't just some mistake or a moment of weakness. It was betrayal, and I was done tolerating it. "I want you to leave," I told her. "Pack your stuff and go. We're done." She stumbled back, tears in her eyes. "Please, don't do this." "I didn't mean for it to happen. Save it," I snapped. "Your words don't matter anymore. You've broken everything between us. I'm not going to sit around waiting for the other shoe to drop." She looked at me with this mixture of regret and fear. "Can we talk about this? Maybe we can work it out." I shook my head slowly. "No, I've seen enough. Just pack your things. I want you gone tonight." As she packed her bag in silence, I felt this strange mixture of relief and rage. I'd finally taken control, but I knew this wasn't over. Not yet. Later that night, I sat in the living room, staring at the door she just closed behind her. I could feel my heartbeat pounding in my ears, adrenaline rushing through my veins. The betrayal was still fresh, and I was determined to make her regret it. That's when the idea started forming, something calculated, precise. She'd think she'd gone free, but I had one last move, one that would show her I wasn't just some pushover. I'd give her a taste of her own medicine, and I'd do it quietly, without screaming or shouting. I made a list of everything I'd need: her phone, some of her personal belongings, a few photos I'd taken secretly. I wanted her to see what I'd uncovered, to understand that I knew all her secrets now. The plan was simple but deadly effective. I wanted her to feel the weight of her betrayal, without violence, just enough to make her understand she'd crossed a line. I knew I'd have her attention if I played it right. Standing there, alone in the dim light of the living room, I felt a strange calm settle over me, like I finally had a handle on this chaos. I knew what I was going to do, and I knew she'd never see it coming. I took a deep breath and looked at the clock. Midnight, the perfect time to strike. I wasn't going to chase her or scream at her. No, I was going to make her realize that messing around behind my back came with consequences. And trust me, I had no intention of playing the fool anymore. The plan was set. Now I just had to wait for the right moment. And when it came, she'd know it wasn't just about heartbreak. It was about reclaiming my dignity, no matter what. The night I finally executed my plan, everything felt still, almost tense. I sat in the dark living room with her phone tucked away in my pocket, just waiting. I knew she'd be back soon, not because she'd tell me where she was, but because I'd arranged the final piece of my little puzzle. I'd gone through her phone again, carefully selecting the most incriminating messages, those few exchanges that would hit her hardest. I printed out screenshots of the conversations, got a USB drive ready with everything I'd uncovered, and left her a note on the table. "This isn't a game anymore. When you come back, I want you to see what I've done." The clock's minute hand crept closer to midnight. I could feel the sweat on my palms, but I forced myself to stay calm. My heart was pounding, but I knew I had to keep my cool. Whatever her reaction, I needed control. Suddenly, I heard keys in the door. My stomach twisted. She was back. I didn't say anything. I just stood there in the shadows, watching her walk in, looking tired and slightly nervous. She dropped her bag and looked around, eyes narrowing as she saw the note on the table. "What's this?" she asked softly, voice trembling. I stepped into the light. "It's a message," I said, "from me." Her eyes darted to the USB drive, to the printed screenshots. Her face went pale. "What's going on?" "You lied to me," I said calmly. "You lied about working late, about being busy, but I found out the truth." She looked like she was about to cry, but I kept my voice steady. "I want you to read these. Look at what you've done." All these messages, these promises you made to him, you thought I wouldn't find out. She swallowed hard, eyes filled with a mix of shame and panic. Please, she started. No, I interrupted. Don't. I want you to see everything, because this is what betrayal looks like, Lisa. You can't just brush it under the rug. I handed her the printed screenshots. She took them gingerly, her hands trembling. As she looked through them, her face went white and her shoulders slumped. Did you really think I wouldn't notice? I asked, voice rising slightly. That I wouldn't see the messages, that I wouldn't find out about every night you spent with him. I didn't mean for it to get so out of hand, she whispered. It just happened. I was lonely. I made a mistake. I felt my jaw tight. A mistake, that's all you can say. Her eyes welled with tears. I swear I never wanted to hurt you. I thought I was doing okay hiding it, but I was stupid. I messed up everything. I took a deep breath, fighting the anger that threatened to boil over. You didn't just mess up. You crossed a line. And now I need to decide what happens next. She looked at me with a mixture of pleading and regret. Please, don't do something you'll regret. I already do, I said sharply. That's why I've planned this. You see, I wanted you to understand what you've lost. It's not just about the cheating, it's about respect, honesty. You threw that away for a quick fuck behind my back, and now you're going to pay for it. Her eyes widened. What are you talking about? I let the silence fill the room for a moment before pulling out the USB. All the evidence I've collected, every message, every photo, everything. I'm going to put this somewhere you'll find it so you know I mean business. I want you to remember what you did every time you look at your phone. She stared at me in horror. You're serious. Dead serious, I snapped. This isn't just about ending us. It's about making sure you never forget the consequences of betrayal. I pressed the USB into her hand. That's your reminder. When you wake up tomorrow, you'll see what your actions have cost you. She looked at the drive, trembling, then looked back up at me. You really want to do this? Yeah, I said, voice low and steady. Because I'm done being the fool. From now on, I'm taking control. I turned toward the door, feeling a strange mixture of relief and fury. I'd finally caught her in the act, laid everything bare. She might think she got away with it, but I knew better. She'd see. She'd remember. And most importantly, she'd never forget that she crossed a line she couldn't come back from. As I left her standing there, clutching that USB, I realized I'd already begun the process of reclaiming what was mine. And no matter what, I'd make sure she understood that cheating comes with a price. That's what revenge felt like, cold, calculated, and final. The next morning, I woke up feeling lighter, like I'd finally shaken off a heavy weight I'd been dragging around for too long. But I knew I wasn't finished. Not yet. She was still in my house, still in my life, and I had one last step to take before I could truly move on. I stayed in bed longer than I should have, listening for any signs of her. When I finally heard her moving around upstairs, my stomach clenched. This was the moment I'd been waiting for. I grabbed the USB drive, checked to make sure the evidence was still there, and slipped it into my pocket. She came down the stairs looking exhausted, eyes red-rimmed. She caught sight of me, hesitant. You okay? She asked softly. I forced a calm tone. Yeah, I've been thinking. I can't keep going like this, Lisa. I need to know if you're really done with him, or if this was just some stupid mistake that you're still planning to hide. She looked away, fingers nervously twisting her sleeves. I swear I'm done with him. I love you. I want to fix this. I didn't believe her, not entirely, but I needed her to see the consequences of her actions. Good, because I have something for you. I reached into my pocket, pulling out the USB drive. Here, take a look. Her eyes widened in alarm as I handed it to her. What is this? Everything, I said. All the messages, the photos, the proof of what you did. I want you to see it all. It's your reminder of how far you went and what you lost. She hesitated, then cautiously took the drive. Her hands trembled as she stared at it like she was afraid of what she'd find. I watched her face as she plugged it into her laptop, waiting for her to realize what she was about to see. Her eyes scanned the screen, and I saw the color drain from her face. Her shoulders sagged and her breath hitched. I could see her fighting back tears. Her lips trembled, but she didn't speak. Immediately, I can't believe you did this, she finally whispered, voice cracking. How could I be so stupid? I crossed my arms. Because you forgot what honesty and respect mean, and I'm not going to let you forget it. She closed her laptop slowly, turning to face me. I'm so sorry, I swear I'm done. I won't see him again. Just please, can we forget about this? I shook my head slowly. No, not yet. I want you to understand that betrayal has consequences. You thought you could just cheat and walk away, but I'm here to tell you it doesn't work like that. Her eyes flicked to the door, then back to me. What do you want from me? I took a step closer, voice cold but firm. I want you to leave, pack your things and go. I want you out of my house, out of my life. And I want you to remember this moment. You've lost someone who cared about you, and you'll never get that back. She looked like she was about to cry again, but I didn't care. This was about showing her that her actions had weight, that she couldn't just cheat and forget about the damage she'd caused. I'll go, she whispered, voice trembling. But I'm telling you, I really do love you. I made a mistake. Please, let's fix this. I looked her straight in the eyes. Love doesn't get to be an excuse for betrayal, Lisa. Love is honesty, respect, loyalty. If you truly cared, you wouldn't have done this. She nodded silently, tears streaming down her face, clutching the USB drive like it was the last thing she had. I turned away, feeling a strange mix of satisfaction and emptiness. I'd finally taken control, but at what cost? That's when I knew, moving forward, I'd need more than just her leaving. I'd need to cut all ties, erase the memory of her betrayal completely. And I was ready to do it. Because the only thing worse than betrayal is staying and pretending it never happened. As I watched her pack her things, I realized I'd already begun the process of reclaiming what was mine. Leaving her keys on the table, I finally closed that chapter of my life. No more lies, no more secrets, only truth. And that truth was I deserved better. She left that afternoon, her bags heavy with a mixture of shame and regret. I watched her walk out the door, shoulders hunched, eyes fixed on the ground. The moment she closed the door behind her, I felt a strange sense of relief, but also an ache deep inside. It was like I'd been holding my breath for too long, finally able to exhale. But at the same time, I knew this was just the beginning of something new. I stayed in the house for a while, sitting in the living room, staring at the empty space where she'd just been. My hands were still trembling slightly, not from fear, but from the adrenaline of the night's events. I'd done what I set out to do. I uncovered the truth, I made her see it, and I pushed her out of my life. Now I just needed time to process everything. But as the hours passed, I realized I couldn't just sit around feeling hollow. I needed closure. I needed to feel like I was taking control, not just reacting to her betrayal. That's when I decided I'd make one final move to seal the deal, something that would make her understand that this wasn't just about her cheating. It was about respect, boundaries, and standing up for myself. I took the USB drive, the one I'd kept hidden until now, and I made a copy of all the evidence. I wanted to be sure I had a backup, just in case she tried to deny everything later. Then, I printed out a few key screenshots that showed the most damaging parts of her messages. I'd already shown her the raw evidence, but I wanted her to see it again in a more permanent form. Next, I drove to the local cafe and sat outside with a blank envelope. Inside, I placed the printed screenshots along with a handwritten note. You betrayed my trust, and now I'm taking back my dignity. This is what you threw away. I sealed it carefully and wrote her name on the front. The plan was simple but effective. I'd leave this package somewhere she'd find it, her car, her mailbox, or maybe her workplace. Somewhere she'd stumble upon it unexpectedly. I wanted her to understand that I wasn't just letting her walk away scot-free, that her actions had consequences, and I was making sure she didn't forget them. While waiting for the right moment, I felt a strange mixture of satisfaction and emptiness. I'd done what I could. I'd shown her that betrayal isn't something you get to brush off, and that crossing someone's trust has a price. It felt like a small victory, but I knew deep down it was more than that. It was about reminding myself that I deserve honesty and respect, and that I don't have to take being lied to or cheated on. When I returned home, I carefully placed the envelope in her mailbox. I hesitated for a second, then finally let go, knowing she'd find it eventually. As I closed the door behind me, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. I'd taken the power back, and I made sure she knew it. Now I'd wait and see what her reaction would be. Would she call, apologize, try to fix things, or was this truly the end? Honestly, I didn't care anymore. I'd already made my move, and that was enough. Because sometimes the hardest thing to do is to stand up and say, no more. And I done just that. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about reclaiming myself, setting a boundary she'd crossed, and finally moving forward with clarity. The pain still lingers, but I'm starting to breathe again, knowing that I've done what I needed to do to get my life back. A few days passed, and I tried to focus on anything but her. The house felt emptier, colder somehow, like it was missing the warmth of a life I thought we shared. But I knew I'd done what I needed to do: cut the cord, make her see the consequences of her betrayal. Still, every time I thought about that envelope I left in her mailbox, my stomach clenched with a strange mix of satisfaction and apprehension. I didn't expect a call or a tearful apology. Honestly, I wasn't sure what I wanted anymore. Maybe I just needed closure, something to tell myself I was in control. And I got it. That night, my phone buzzed with a message from her. I hesitated before opening it. I knew what she'd say. Sure enough, it was a string of apologies, promises to change, and a plea for a second chance. I stared at the screen, feeling my jaw tighten. I typed back a simple reply: "It's over. Do contact me again." I pressed send and turned my phone off. That was the final nail in the coffin, letting her know that I wasn't going to be manipulated or played anymore. I wasn't going to be the fool she thought I was. That moment I realized how much better I felt. I'd taken back my power, reclaimed my dignity, and I was finally free from the weight of her lies. I could breathe again, even if the wound was still fresh. Because true strength isn't about never falling, it's about rising after you do. I packed her keys and her belongings in a box, put them by the door, and decided I'd hand them over tomorrow. No need for drama, no shouting, just a clean break. I wanted her gone, and I wanted to feel like I'd closed a chapter I'd never want to reopen. As I stood there looking at everything I'd done, I felt a strange peace settle over me. I wasn't perfect, and I knew I'd carry scars from this. But I also knew I'd learned something vital: respect isn't just given, it's earned. And if someone betrays that trust, they lose the right to be part of your life. The next morning, I handed her the keys and her things quietly, with no fanfare. "This is for you," I said, my voice steady. "Take it and never come back." She looked at me, eyes red but resigned, and nodded. She left without a word. I closed the door behind her and leaned against it, taking a deep breath. The house was finally mine again, and I felt the weight of betrayal lift off my shoulders. I knew I'd be okay. I'd rebuild, I'd trust again, but never blindly. Because now I understood that sometimes the only way to truly heal is to take control and walk away. This story isn't just about revenge or betrayal. It's about realizing your worth, standing up for yourself, and refusing to be a victim. It's about knowing that the hardest thing to do can also be the best thing you ever do. And from here, I'm moving forward, stronger, wiser, because I've learned the only person who can truly protect your happiness is you.